Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have an amazing guest. This is somebody I've seen on stages. I've seen him speak on virtual events. I've seen him speak a lot of times. And this guy is so good at what he does. And he's in real estate. He's in business. He does so many different stuff. And it's absolutely amazing to have him here. He is the podcast host of the show, Business Confessions of a Left-Brainer. He used to be part of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So thank you very much for that. He was an auditor for some of the biggest companies out there like Shell and also Volkswagen. And he was actually a associate producer of a documentary from Hollywood. So please welcome Mr. Jonathan Wright.
Pleasure to be here, Fong. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for being here. It's absolutely a pleasure for me to have you here, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. Now, for people who don't really know who you are and don't know what you actually do, tell us more about your history, how you got to where you are today, and what are you currently working on that you're absolutely passionate in?
Okay, well, I mean, that's a long story. I mean, I've got quite a history to go through. So I won't go too much into the weeds on my history, but the long and short of it is, like you mentioned, I was in the military for 15 years. So I went and joined the military, the Air Force in this case, right out of high school. And after leaving the military, I wasn't really sure what I was going to get into. It's very common for military people to be unsure where to go because the military life is different from civilian life. So like many other military, I was sort of trying to find my footing, trying out a couple of different things, seeing where I could apply my skill sets. And I tried the auditing route, which was an eye-opening experience. I got to see how some of these businesses operated. I saw where their efficiencies were. I saw where their shortfalls were. And without realizing it, I was starting to get an understanding of business, which is something that I didn't ever expect to get into. And then, of course, I had the stint with the documentary out of Hollywood, which was a blast. I got to meet a lot of celebrities. I got to walk the red carpet. I got the whole experience, which was amazing. And it wasn't until I got back home here in Halifax and, I started to say, okay, what do I want to do now? And I attended a real estate seminar and it seemed interesting. So I decided to, buy into it for a couple of days, start to see what kind of meat they had to serve on basically their education program. And I felt that they had somewhere to go. So that was with Elite Legacy. And after that, I attended a symposium in in Toronto for 3 days, started expanding on this strategy, building that fundamental knowledge. And that's where I met JT Fox, who eventually became my wealth and business coach. So that is really where the real estate journey began. And I've been pursuing that at 120% every day since then. And that's really how I've been able to grow my wealth and grow my my business fundamentals has really been in the real estate business. And with the help of the coaching and the fundamental knowledge, I had all the tools necessary. So even though my education background has nothing to do with business, I didn't need an education background in order to get started. I was able to do it with a bit of fundamental knowledge and a proper coach, and that honestly is all you need to get started.
Wow, fascinating. Now, for somebody who is so well versed into the numbers and you can foresee what may or may not happen, what would you say is the biggest change to business and also real estate after all this COVID stuff?
Well, COVID was definitely an interesting experience in the real estate field for sure. I can speak, in depth in terms of our markets and what we've seen here, but what we've noticed is the residential market's really spooling up. We've seen property valuations go up significantly during COVID, which a lot of people didn't anticipate at the beginning. So we were ready for the market to go one way or the other. So thankfully it went up and it definitely worked in our favor. But we've also noticed the commercial market take a huge hit. So no matter whether the market is going up or down, there are ways to take advantage of that and be profitable either way. And the advantage of transitioning through COVID is we get to experience both simultaneously, either on the residential or commercial side. So this is the perfect opportunity for someone getting into real estate to experience both the ups and downs of the market simultaneously. And for us, we've been able to take advantage of that and profit from that on both ends. So for anyone who's getting started, now is the absolute perfect time. You couldn't pick a better time to learn and experience the biggest extremes in the real estate market.
Totally agreed. And I've been seeing a lot of places right now that you could put offers on, and you could go a little bit lower than usual because there's more, what do you call it? There's more motivation to sell. So
correct.
Now, for somebody like myself who's also very good at math and been in physics. I became an engineer. At a very early age, I was told not to get into business. It's not for me. I'm too left-brained,
Yep.
and therefore don't even attempt it. Now, you have absolutely owned the whole left-brainer mentality. And how, how have you taken that process and just made it your own and used it to your advantage completely?
Well, the advantage of having a left brain approach to business is ultimately business comes down to the numbers. And as a left brainer, numbers are our bread and butter, and we can do numbers all day long, never get tired of it. So as long as you base your business on the numbers, things generally work out well, as long as you have the right mindset and the right coach and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So that allows me to basically lead the business with my mind as opposed to my heart, or which is a big mistake a lot of people make, is they follow their heart, and that doesn't necessarily take them where they want to go.
Mhm.
So that's one advantage you have as a left brainer. Now, the idea here is that you want to partner with someone who is probably more on the right brain side, that might be better at the negotiation, better at the sales, better at the marketing, whatever it might be, to be able to take advantage of both aspects of business, because one of them is on the acquisition, one of them is on maintaining a business. So for me, I focused 100% of what I excel at, but took it to the absolute highest level possible, so I could get the initial results and get the returns that no one else in my market was able to get.
Mhm.
That's when I was able to get partners. It's basically by demonstrating what the business model looks like if you're strict and you're regimented. Now, part of that was my military background, which only fed into that in terms of my leadership experience and my ability to command and manage people. Also allowed me to build very strong teams here, and I was able to select people that complemented my unique skill set.
Mhm.
So my managers, or the people I have on the ground don't necessarily operate exactly how I do. They're a little different, and that's very strategic because they're able to offer me advice that I may not necessarily think of on my own. So by providing yourself with a team that complements you, then you're able to very effectively scale your business right from the get-go.
Now, when it comes to business, building relationships is very, very important. And there's a lot of people who believe that building relationships require that right brain side of things. Now, you have absolutely done an amazing job in building great, long-lasting relationships. So how did you approach building relationships from the left mind side?
Well, from the left mindset, for me, I built the relationships purely based on the results initially. So at the first deal, obviously, is the most challenging. So once the first deal was done, then it became very simplistic, because then I just marketed the results and demonstrated very, very logically how everyone benefits. So it became very benefit driven. So, and the relationships themselves grew organically from the benefits themselves. So if I'm able to go to a property manager, for example, and say, okay, if you can effectively manage my properties and allow me to become profitable, I'll be able to buy a lot more properties, have you manage them, and here's how the benefits look for you.
Mhm.
So then to get attracted to that. So initially, it's enough to get my foot in the door. And then once I'm able to acquire multiple properties, they start to see that I'm delivering exactly on what I promised initially. So again, it started with the results, and then the relationship grew organically from that. Now they take me out for lunch, they discuss plans, they start talking about expanding their business, how we can partner in their expansion, how their expansion can help build our expansion. And those relationships originally developed again from those results.
Mhm.
And if you're in the left brain mindset and you focus on your left brain skills, those results are going to be what you need to get started. And you just let the relationships grow organically from that as you continue to deliver the
Mhm.
results that you promise.
Right. Now, as a business coach yourself, and also you did auditing before, what would you say is the number one reason why some very successful businesses are able to stay atop and why so many businesses fail? And it can't be the same answer.
No, fair enough, fair enough. Um, well, I can definitely have some answers that apply to both, and one of them is a lack of innovation.
Mhm.
They tend to be stuck in their ways, and I know this very well from being in the military. The military has its way of doing things, and if you try and change it, there's a lot of resistance because it's all based on tradition. Um, so that being said, I going into the business world, I'm seeing a lot of the same trends where businesses that don't innovate, that don't change, that don't adapt, don't tend to be able to expand and grow consistently. Eventually, they hit a plateau, or in the case of COVID, a lot of them, weren't able to be innovative enough and now are starting to fall apart.
Mhm.
So, a lack of innovation is really an issue there. Another point that I've really noticed is a lack of focus and emphasis on their people. A lot of them are focused on the profits, not on the people. Okay, so if you have employees or key members in your business, those are the ones that you want to invest in. Those are the ones who you want to focus your attention on. Not as much the profits, focus on them, because they're the ones that are going to deliver the product, the service that are going to generate those profits. So I'm seeing that in quite a few businesses right now, where a lack of focus on the people and a lack of innovation are really the causes of that. And something else that I've noticed in some other coaching that I've done, and this is a common thing all over, especially with people who are starting a business, is they're so focused on working in their business, they don't work on their business.
Right.
And that prevents scaling. You can only get up to a certain point and you will plateau.
Mhm.
And it's hard for you to innovate and to strategically think when you're focused on working in your business, because the whole working environment can change around you and you're not going to notice until you start to see your sales drop off, and then you're wondering what happened, because my performance or my service has been consistent, is because you've been blind to what's been going on around you. So
Mhm.
until you start working on your business and start taking a look around at your environment, you're going to lose sight of that, and you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So again, there's so many different factors. And when I break apart businesses that business owners that I coach, that's what I start to see. It's those common elements that are coming up again and again that
Mhm.
I would say are the biggest contributors.
Very, very well said. Throughout this period of time, you've mentioned a lot about your military experience. Would you say that it would be a good recommendation for younger people, kids, to actually get into either military or cadets or that type of environment? Because that type of environment actually teaches a lot more of the other skill sets than regular schooling. And what would
All right.
be
Well,
the main difference of that?
I'll walk you through my decision making initially when I was a teenager in high school. Again, I was going through high school learning the same life lessons that everyone else was learning. In other words, work hard in your education, get a professional education, get a job, work for 30, 35 years, retire on some, small pension, and that's how life is. Um, for me, my concern is that I saw so many of my older colleagues, getting university degrees and having to work at fast food restaurants because they weren't able to get a job. Engineering fields were struggling for quite a while for that reason. So I said, okay, I don't want to be going down that route. So for me, the military route made more sense, because not only am I getting a 4-year education, but the government is paying for my education. So I have no student debt. And then I'm guaranteed employment for 5 years, and they're going to be flying me around the world. They're going to be having me do all kinds of jobs that no one else can do. For me, that allowed me to not only get the education, but a wealth of experience on a worldwide scale that no one else is able to get.
Mhm.
So for those who are thinking of going this route, there's a number of different advantages. One, you're going to get training that no one else can get, and the training is on a whole other level. So, for example, as an air combat systems officer, the federal government invested over $2 million to train me in doing what I do, or
Mhm.
what I used to do in this case. So no other company is going to invest that kind of money into you as a teenager or someone in their early 20s. So now you've got access to training and opportunities that most other people don't have. So when you're going through this route, you're gonna be trained in leadership, you're gonna be trained in management, you're gonna be trained in fast decision making. You're gonna be trained in so many different aspects of your career, whatever your career choice might be in the military. And it's not something you necessarily have to stay in the long term, because a lot of times when you join the military, at least here in Canada, you only have to sign a contract. In my case, was for 5 years.
Mhm.
So after 5 years, I can leave the military, no penalties, and then transition to a civilian career. But I'm able to not only take my education, but take my entire set of military experience with me into whatever business venture I decide to take on.
Mhm.
So, and if you decide to go into the workforce, then you've got a very impressive resume. So it's a win-win either way. So it's a great option for a lot of people starting out. Also, if you're struggling with things, certain things like self-discipline, for example, that's something they will teach you whether you like it or not in the military. Okay, so
Have you found that being in
yeah,
the military also allows you to kind of look at fear differently too?
yes and no. We tend to have to react in very tense situations and focus on the task at hand. A lot of it comes into repetition. Whether you're doing weapons handling or anything along those lines, it becomes muscle memory.
Mhm.
But also, it's more in terms of the decision making. that I find is the most relevant, because we're forced to make very important decisions on the facts that we have at hand in a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the business world, it's very much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, JT talks about then the 5 count that he does to make a decision. Well, for me, that 5 count is like ages and ages. You might as well be thinking for 100 years. I normally look at something and I make an immediate decision, because that is the environment that I was trained in.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, when I'm on the aircraft and I have to make operational decisions, people don't understand. We're flying at a speed of about 3 miles a minute. So if it takes you 2 minutes to make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
then your decision point was 6 miles behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to sort of appreciate that and be able to make very, very quick decisions. So, when you look at it from a fear point of view, for people that, to have the experience in the military and want to, apply that fear resistance, you experience different types of fear in the military than you do in the civilian sector. But what ultimately you get is more self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get very strong self-confidence, you get a very strong work ethic, and that is what will limit or completely eliminate your fear in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you get that transition.
Right. Now, when you have to break it down, and somebody wants to learn how to do what you do, learn how to think fast and make decisions fast, face challenges fast, how would you break down your thought process so that somebody can go, okay, I could do that, that, and that, and then I could practice it? And how would they practice it?
That actually dates back to when I was in school. Like, a lot of times, like, university was one example. There was a particular course I couldn't stand the instructor, so I never went to class. I learned the whole course 3 hours before. Basically, I studied the entire course in 3 hours and then taught the course on the final exam. It all comes down to mental discipline and figuring out how you learn. That's the first step, is learning.
Mhm.
Okay. So you need to find out what your learning strategy is and what works for you. The second is you want to adopt the mentality of a very young child, in that you never want to stop learning. Okay. Because most of us have been at our smartest when we were born, because we go from knowing essentially nothing to learning how to speak, learning how to walk, learning how to understand our environment, all within a couple of years. That learning curve is steeper than we ever experienced anywhere later in life.
Mhm.
So you want to maintain a very strong learning focus. Okay.
Mhm.
So you need that fundamental before you really get started to be able to think the way I do. So that way, when I get into a circumstance that might be a little bit new to me, for example, some of it is going to be familiar, and I know how I applied it in the past, so I'm able to solve half the problem instantaneously. And the other half, I sort of work through the pieces very, very quickly. It's like when you're building a puzzle, you have an idea of what the picture looks like, and then you're very quickly sort of grouping certain colors or certain patterns together, and you're not looking to complete the puzzle. You're looking to put enough pieces together to know what the image is, and then you move on to the next one.
Mhm.
So you don't want to fall into the trap of trying to get a 100% clear understanding of something, because it's not necessary. As
Right.
long as you have, as long as you can put the pieces together to understand what it is, that's all you need to do. You can go back and analyze it later and maybe fine tune stuff, but you just want to build enough information to be able to make an informed decision so that you have a very high probability of success.
Right. Now, I worked with a lot of engineers, and a lot of engineers who wants to get into real estate or want to get into business. Now, one of the stereotypes about engineers is they always think they're right. And therefore, when they come up with a solution, they're gonna justify it all the way down to the last number, to the last digit, whatever it is. And I had this one person come up to me and go, I want to buy this real estate property, and I think it's gonna be a great deal. I looked at it in 2-3 seconds ago, yeah, you're not gonna make it because it's not gonna make cash flow. It's not gonna do this. Not gonna. 3 hours later, he came back with a stack of papers with full long calculations justifying what he said was gonna work. I'm like, I don't need to read it. It's not gonna work. So, as engineers, they kind of keep on trying to find ways of justifying their solutions, and also they want to fulfill that ego of theirs. Now, for yourself, where's that line? Where do you get to the point where, wait a minute, I think I'm just trying to justify my decision, versus, wait a minute, I kind of have to go back and then listen to somebody else and kind of go with their gut.
Okay, well, if we're using your example of analyzing a deal, first thing you need to do is you need to check your ego at the door, period.
Mhm.
Okay, I know how smart I am. I check it at the door, because I always leave room for the fact that I may make a mistake. So what I do is I look at the numbers of the deal, whether it's disclosure from the sellers or my manager, whatever the case may be, and I work it back from there. And I always leave room to revisit. So if someone questions something, then I take a step back and I ask that same question myself and go, okay, what if they're right?
Mhm.
So then I try and prove them right using my form of logic. And if I can't prove them right, then I go back and say, look, I've looked at this. I don't see your side of the argument. Can you please explain what you're getting at? Why do you feel this is a bad deal?
Mhm.
So part of that is really doing your homework and understanding your market, understanding all the drivers in your market, understanding what your professionals and your managers are telling you, what information is being fed to you,
Mhm.
so that you can have a certain level of confidence that when you present your deal to an investor, it already makes sense. So you want to capitalize and take advantage of all the expertise that you have at your fingertips.
Mhm.
Okay, first and foremost, never try and be the expert on everything, because you're going to fall short and there's too many rooms for mistakes. I
Right.
rather have very strong understanding of everything, but having specific subject matter experts in certain areas that feed me the information. And I always do a logic check. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? Does that make sense to me? And you logic check everything. So it's all based on a logic process, a logical process. And don't be afraid to be wrong. Okay, if you're wrong, treat it as a learning point. Treat it as an opportunity to grow. Where did I make a mistake? Where did I fall short? What did not see the time that I can make sure I look forward, or I looked at the next time, or the next, or in the future. So my advice to engineers and people who think like I do, think very logically, is that, again, start with the fundamentals of the deal, the very basics, and work your way up from there. Whether you're starting with the final product of what it's going to be worth at the end of the project and working your way back, or starting from the front and working your way up. However approach you take on a deal, have a process in place and follow the process, and let the process provide the results. Don't let your ego or your opinion provide the results.
Right.
Okay, we're all human beings, whether we're left brain or right brain. Our emotions get into it. We have to leave the ego at the door, leave the emotions at the door. Think with your brain, establish a process that works for you, and stick to the process, whatever the results might be.
And then how would you combat analysis paralysis?
Um, well, again, that a lot of that comes from my military background, where at the end of the day, I need to decide. So, going back to the puzzle analogy, I only need to formulate the puzzle
Mhm.
in a way that just enough pieces to allow me to move to the next step.
Mhm.
So before I put an offer on a property, I'll build a bit of the puzzle. If puzzle seems to be going in the right direction, I put the property under contract. Then once I have it under contract, I go back to that puzzle and I keep building it. And that comes through due diligence, property inspections, the lawyers, everything else.
Mhm.
And I keep building the puzzle.
Right.
And then if the puzzle's still looking good, then I'll remove subjects, or whatever the next stages are going to be. So it's all about going back to that, just analyzing just enough to be able to move to the next step in the process.
Right.
And then it doesn't stop you from going back to analyze later.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's what I was saying earlier. You can always go back to it, but you don't want to build a full picture on the get-go, because one, you will never be able to build a 100% full picture. Okay,
Right.
you'll never get all the pieces to the puzzle. That's never going to happen.
Mhm.
So you need to realize that, which is something that I find engineers have a hard time pacing with. They want all the answers, they want all the math to work out, they want a nice, pretty picture. Well, hypothetically, even if you're able to do that, that deal's probably long gone by the time you get to that point. Okay,
Very,
so
very true.
yeah, so again, you just want to build the puzzle as you go,
Mhm.
and you're going to see the end result when you get there.
Mhm.
But if you have a proper process in place, then you're going to find your end results always in line with what you hoped or you expected them to be.
Mhm. Now, with a background like yourself, it's not every day that you go, you know what, I'm going to go produce a movie. How did that come about? And then
Hmm.
how did you kind of use that towards your business career now?
Well, they're almost mutually exclusive at this point. This actually started with a conversation I was having on Facebook. Again, I was retired at the time. I had a lot of time on my hands. So I just ended up getting in a conversation with someone that led to another conversation, that led to another conversation. And without realizing it, I was talking to people who were working on producing a documentary. And we got into a bit, not so much an argument, but an exchange of ideas, and things kind of went quiet for a little bit. Then they came back to me, and then more of an exchange of ideas. And they said, okay, would you be interested in working with us? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And then I heard nothing for about 6 months. So I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, um, I get an email asking me to go on to IMDb to check my IMDb profile. I said, what IMDb profile? I don't have a profile. So I thinking it's a mistake. And of course, I go in there, and sure enough, I have a profile that was created because I didn't have one at the time with a title of associate producer. Go back and I said, what's this? I said, well, we were thinking of bringing you on as a consultant, but we thought we'd give you a title of associate producer. Is that okay? I'm like, that's okay, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have a background in the industry. And it's like, don't worry, we'll walk you through it. I'm like, okay, so what's next? I said, well, stand by, we'll give you details. And then a few months by, and they say, okay, well, we're going to be having an event in Vegas. You're invited, and you'll be able to interview people and all that stuff. I'm like, cool. And then just kind of evolved from there. So I mean, I got to go to Vegas for a week. I got to go to Paramount Studios. So I was working on the Paramount lot, which was great. And when it came time to releasing the documentary, which was released in theaters, I got to go to the premiere at the Paramount Studio, like basically Paramount Pictures Studio on the Paramount lot, and then UMC in New York City, and then I was off to Birmingham, UK. The following week. So I got to travel with them, travel with the actors, hang out with the actors. And at the time, I wasn't monetizing those opportunities because I didn't have a business mindset. I was just enjoying the experience. Now, in hindsight, it would have been nice to monetize that a little bit more. I would have had more interviews under my belt at that point. But again, I didn't think of it that way. So sort of a lesson learned there. But I mean, there's always things that you learn in that. And I got a chance to spend a lot of time with celebrities, get a chance to fully realize that they're just regular people, and they have regular people problems and everything else. So it's easier for me to relate to them. So now when I'm approaching celebrities, I've got that background, I've got all the photos that I had on set and all this kind of stuff, and they're going, okay, so it's easier to start to open that door. So it has allowed me to get in the door with some celebrities, which eventually led to others, and it's been sort of a chain reaction, which I did a fair bit of in Q4 of last year. And I probably have more interviews coming up in the next few weeks that might be of interest. But essentially, that's what it did. Is really everything you do in life is a learning opportunity. It is a new experience. And it allowed me to grow in different ways that I wouldn't have grown through, the auditing business or the military career or here in the real estate. It's just a different way of growth and different experience. So you want to build on every experience you have in life.
Yeah, I'm always on edge, waiting to see who's your next guest. So I'm very excited to see. Now it's obvious that you're a very very fast learner. You went did the whole Hollywood thing very quickly, and also got into real estate very quickly, and become very successful in that, and also on business. So what's the next big thing for you? What's the next project that you're excited to get into?
I'm involved in a number of projects and a number of partnerships right now. I'm working on being a partner in a car detailing business, which I've been probably working on for 2-3 months now. So that's going to be happening in 2021, which is great. It's allowing me to network with some of the highest net worth people in my market, because that's really what the environment is. When people bring in their sports cars into these facilities, they don't send their admin assistant to bring in their Maserati for detailing. That's something they do themselves.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad, because they'll send their admin assistant to buy their wife a present, but they won't send their admin assistant to take the car in for detailing. But what it allows me to do is I'll get a call from my business partner saying, hey, so and so's coming to the shop to drop off his car, and then I'll just conveniently go to the shop, and then I'll be able to start a dialogue, and you never know what might happen, right? So you exchange contact information, you start to build those relationships, and over time it's going to open up new business opportunities. So for now, that's on go, and I've got a couple of other business ventures that I'm working on right now with other partners that I've met through the JT that are spooling out to be something quite interesting.
Awesome. Now you have the world as your stage, and you get an opportunity to tell everybody in the world something. What would that something be?
Geez, that's a fairly open-ended question. Take this in many different ways. Now, I would say that it's very important to keep yourself grounded. It doesn't matter how successful you become. It doesn't matter what you accomplish in life. Always remember where you came from, who got you to where you are, right from the beginning, whether it be teachers in school, whether it be parents, whether it be coaches, whatever it may be. And, always find a way to give back. And don't wait until you're amazingly successful, 9-figure net worth, or whatever the case may be. You can actually give back along your journey. So that's what I've been focusing on, and that's what I've been sort of illustrating through my interviews that other people are doing, is that on your journey to success, you can give back to your community and you can sort of bring people up along with you. So it's not only about providing value to very successful people to get, you maybe get something back over time, but it's for people around you that, you know, would have otherwise have the opportunity. You provide those opportunities, and then you never know what may come from it. And even if nothing comes from it, you feel good about the fact that you made someone else's life better. You provided an opportunity for someone else that wouldn't have had an opportunity otherwise. So again, you always want to be mindful of that. And, you know, that's what really drives me day to day, is finding new opportunities to make someone else's life better. Whether I get something in return or not is not important. It's just about that, you know, that sense of giving back. And to me, that's the biggest message I can pass on.
Great, very well said. Now, before I let you go, I have 5 very quick questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
You have an opportunity to go to space, and you get to pick one sci-fi character to go with you. Who would that character be?
One sci-fi character. Jeez.
Space is a long travel. It's gonna have to be.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I know. But the problem is, I know a lot of these people personally, so the sci-fi character and the actor behind them, it's hard to say. But if I stick to the actual character, I think it would be Data from Star Trek, Brent Spiner, who's a friend of mine. That would probably be my choice. Very entertaining.
Okay. So the next question is, what are you going to serve them? But Data doesn't eat. So what are you going to serve the actor who plays Data?
Oh, geez. Just trying to think. From my experience, he's been a bit of a fussy eater, so that might be a bit of a challenge. What would I serve the actor? I don't know. It'd probably be like a snack platter, a whole bunch of different things.
Okay.
Because it's just the way I would see it, you know, like finger food. We would be just snacking and chatting. That'd be the way to go with that one.
Okay. You landed on the moon. What's the first thing that you do?
On a spacesuit. Put on a spacesuit.
Okay, well,
I'm going for a walk.
You go for a walk. What's the first selfie photo you would take on the moon?
It would probably be with a background of the Earth behind me.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have a hidden talent?
A hidden talent. I think I've expressed all my talents pretty effectively. I would say one that people probably don't know is that I'm a really good driver.
Awesome.
Driver. Yeah.
Great. And final, what is success like? Give me a number between 1 to 4.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success like the Eiffel Tower?
Success like the Eiffel Tower, it stands out from what's around you. You look at the skyline for Paris, the Eiffel Tower is obvious, it stands out. And that's what success is how do you stand out amongst the people around you. And it's not only in how wealthy you become, but it's also how much of a difference you make in your community. So if you're able to walk around in your community, people recognize you, people, you know, acknowledge the fact that you've made a difference, then you make the city rise as a whole. So the Eiffel Tower, just like it raises property values, just like it raises tourism, it attracts people. That's exactly what you're doing. Is you're attracting positive people around you, and you're improving, you know, your entire environment. So
awesome. Very well said. Not taken aback at all, and just so calm and collected. Very well done. Well, thank you very much for your time and all your great stories and your wisdom. If anybody want to get in touch with you to ask you some questions, what's the best way to reach out?
Facebook or WhatsApp is typically the best way to get a hold of me. They can access my email. You can reach me in so many different ways. I'm not a hard person to get a hold of.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again. His name is Jonathan Wright. My name is Fong Chua. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.